Welcome to the show. This is No Interference. We are your hosts, Westside, Big Sass, and today's our Week 11 rundown. So if you watch the games, we're going to dive into them a bit. If you missed the games, we're going to fill you in on what happened. So hopefully you got a snack, a nice cool drink, and just
What happens
chill.
if they're listening when they're doing something stressful like working out or
You could still have a protein bar and
maybe
like
riding a
water.
bike, maybe going for a jog?
Well, then I hope the calm vibes get you through this troubling times and just listen
You
to the
assume
soothing.
that our listeners are snack eaters, soda drinkers sitting on the couch.
Just get through your stressful workout or your ride and listen to the refreshing monotone voice of Taylor Wright, aka Westside.
Terrible.
No, I think I could do like some ASMR. You never know.
Prove it.
But anywho, pretty good week of football. A lot of highs and lows. You didn't hit any of your parlays, did you?
Did I look like I froze?
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't want to talk about it. I didn't.
Okay, moving on. For a minute, I was like,
I hit one. It wasn't a parlay, but it was the Cowboys to cover the 17 or 16 and a half spread.
Oh yeah, that was easy money.
I was like before. Well, some people didn't. Well, it was a huge spread, but I mean, there's no way that they weren't going to blow them out again. And I was just like, I need to win one today, so let me do these parlays. And I was one off on two of them, and then yeah, whatever.
All right, well, it was a tough week, so we'll get into maybe why that happened. First game on the schedule, another early morning game. I'm kind of sick of these. Colts versus Patriots in Frankfurt, Germany. What game did they get last week? It was Chiefs Dolphins.
Chiefs Dolphins Frankfurt.
And then that got if you're over there like, yeah, this football's amazing. And then this week they're like, oh, if you like that, you're really going to like this. And they give him Gardner Minshew versus Mac Jones, Bailey Zappi. So,
yeah, it's disgusting.
I don't know how the NFL. I guess they thought Anthony Richardson would be playing. So, but hey, teams don't go as planned.
I'll have to admit, I was at the grocery store Sunday morning, so I missed like the first half of this game. Came home, we were putting groceries away, and I turned the game on, and it was the first game of my Sunday parlay, and I was standing up watching the game, and I was cheering hardcore for that last Patriots possession with Zappi to fail. So I was probably one of the, outside of Colts and Patriots fans, heavier excited people.
Game's a bit of a snooze fest. The Colts, I can't remember if it was their first drive. I think it was their first drive. They basically rode Jonathan Taylor. He scored he punched in a touchdown, gave them the 7-point lead early, and then they scored 9 points the rest of the game. Lots of turnovers.
They are what they are.
Not really exciting play. Patriots get the ball back with a chance to go ahead and score to take the lead down 6-10. And the Patriots pull Mac Jones and insert Bailey Zappi, who, has been, his backup, but getting spots here and there. Mac Jones threw a brutal end zone pick. And then Bailey Zappi comes in, and I'm pretty sure the moment he was like given the green light to go fire some passes downfield, he throws a pick.
Yeah, I mean they got to close to midfield. I think it was like maybe it was like the 35-40, but it looked close to midfield. And then they had to have given him permission to do the fake spike and then throw it, but he threw it into triple coverage and then it got picked. But also the fakes clock
Yeah.
looked weird too because he like took 3 steps back and then went.
Yeah,
And then
I was
turned
gonna
forward.
post and be like, "What's going through this guy's head?" But he's a backup quarterback, young, and I didn't want to fry him up.
I was really hoping it would have like all that went down, and then it pans to Bill Belichick, and he's just sitting on the sideline like smirking, like it was all part of the plan.
Okay, so first it was Bill Belichick's. He's getting out of New England. Then the report came out that he signed an extension in the offseason. Then I heard a report it was because Robert Kraft really wants Belichick to get his whatever 300th win, or I can't remember what the number is. He's like 20 wins away, so it's looking like he'll never get there at this rate in New England.
No,
Um,
unless he plays for like 3 or coaches there for another couple years.
so maybe we're looking at a mutual like separation, but now there's stories coming out. So they pulled Mac Jones, and
Dumb.
you could say he hasn't played well, but you could also say you assured a loss by putting Bailey Zappi.
Yes.
Then they've announced going into next week's game, J.C. Jackson's not playing. They're just not playing him. They're apparently not going to play Christian Gonzalez, their rookie corner, who looked really good anymore, just because of risk of injury this year. And they just released Jack Jones.
Mm.
They're basically their best corner they have on the roster right now. So through their own choices, they've basically decimated their secondary. And they're about to play the Giants, and the loser of this game has the, straightaway for the second overall pick behind the Bears, which will be either probably Caleb Williams or Drake May.
Yeah, I mean, this is one of the teams that it makes sense to want to tank. Like, what do you have to look forward to besides like another season like last year and this year?
And the thing I'll say before we get way too sidetracked, if they get either of those quarterbacks and they end up being as hyped as they are, and Belichick brings in like a really good like assistant coach, he has shown that he can build a defense out of garbage throughout Tom. And I know playing defense with Tom Brady is a whole different animal, but he would bring in random guys and they'd be like, oh yeah, Patriots have a top 10 defense with no names.
Yeah, I mean, their defense isn't even that bad this year. It's had a few duds of games. And they have been scored on, but yards wise, they're middle of the pack against the pass. They're middle of the pack, and they're top 10 in terms of rush yards allowed. So I mean, it's not like it's not a Giants defense out here getting gashed for 50 points, 40 points.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, just part ways with I think if I was Mac Jones, I would demand a trade. And if I was Bill Belichick and Robert Kraft, I would say let's just do a mutual parting. You just gotta let go. It isn't what it was. Belichick and Tom Brady were the perfect marriage, well, for winning.
Yeah.
And just move on. It is what the Patriot way is done. The Patriot way was obviously Belichick and Tom Brady. Just gotta move on.
Yep.
Bill Belichick's never really proven anything without Tom Brady. Besides being a good defensive coach, he's always going to be a good defensive coach.
I don't really like that argument just because in this league,
it's just I'm just saying
it's such a quarterback league. Like
I'm not even saying that that's like my pure opinion, but it's just facts.
The only coach, and I'm sure you can like go back in history. The only coach I feel like I've ever seen that seems to touch quarterbacks and turns them into gold, truthfully,
I'm glad you added the last part.
It's Andy Reid.
Yeah, I mean Andy Reid's the best coach in the NFL right now.
But even if you look at if you look at great coaches, it's a lot of times because they can like cover up a bad quarterback. But Andy Reid, it's like he can I don't know, whispers to him.
Yep, Brett Favre, McNabb, Vic, Nick Foles. No, that was Chip Kelly. Yeah, that was Chip Kelly's year. He went off, but Andy Reid drafted him.
They have Matt Castle
Alex
for a
Smith,
bit.
Patrick Mahomes. Huh?
Did he have Matt Castle for a little bit, or did he get Alex Smith as soon as he went to the Chiefs?
I think it was Alex Smith right away. I could be wrong.
Even Mahomes' backups when he's missed games have looked good.
Yeah. Yep. But anyways.
Yeah, anywho. No one cares about that game. Wasn't even played in America. Next game up on the schedule, Texans at the Bengals. In a shocker, the Texans walk away with a 30-27 victory.
Is it shocking?
Shocking in the sense that the Texans were just 3 weeks ago this really young team that just was a year away, and then they have the shootout against the Texans, and they have another shootout with the Bengals, and all of a sudden they're 5-4, and now they're like a real deal. And I said it last week, or maybe even before last week, or maybe one of us said it. Stroud's having like the best rookie quarterback year ever.
Yeah.
And
on pace for it.
And if you put his numbers on a winning team, which they are now, he's an MVP candidate.
Yep.
Like if he keeps this pace up, what's his numbers? 15-2. If they get into the playoffs and he's sitting at like 28-4, 28-5, he's getting votes. He's not winning it, but there's no way they'll give a rookie MVP, but he's getting votes at least.
Yeah, I mean, if he somehow takes the top off the second half of the year and gets like closer to like 35 to 40 touchdowns, which he would have to go on a real burner.
I don't know if he's already playing so well. I don't know if it's fair to expect him to like.
I'm not saying to expect him to do that. I'm just saying
he hasn't played the Titans yet, so he gets the Titans secondary twice still.
Yeah, that's true. And that's all I'm saying. Like if he only had one touchdown against the Bengals, he had a ton of yards again. But I mean, if he has like 3 or 4 more of those 4 touchdown games, it's gonna help a lot. And that I'm just saying, if the numbers are that good, I don't know how unless another like Mahomes or Hurts, of course somebody like that could go off the second half of the year too. But if he happens to be the guy that does, I don't know how you don't make him an MVP, and if they make the playoffs. But he's a stud.
Yeah, I mean the Panthers just really got to be kicking themselves.
You can, and it's still early. I mean, the Panthers offense just sucks, and the Texans as a whole have been performing better than expected. I mean, Devin Singletary had 150 yards. I mean, Bryce Young hasn't gotten any kind of production like that from the run game on the Panthers, and they signed Miles Sanders. They have no outside threat for receiver, so I mean, the Panthers are just a mess. And D'Amico Ryan's done a good job with the Texans, and CJ Stroud just happened to be really, really good. And then Tank Dell's really, really good.
Everyone's playing well for the
everyone's
Texans.
Yeah. I mean, Nico Collins is having a career year. Noah Brown, who got released by the Cowboys. He had 172 yards, I think, back-to-back games. He has like over 300 yards receiving.
Yeah. And on the Bengals, on the flip side, they were on a hot streak before this game, but it comes down to they're a team without an identity, sort of. Joe Burrow, he finally got healthy, but this offensive game plan of Joe Burrow is just going to go scorched earth and put our whole team on his back. They really need to have the trio. I think it has to be the trio of Jamar Chase, Tyler Boyd, T. Higgins. When you have that trio and the Joe Burrow just dicing you up, it puts so much pressure on the opposing team. But take away one of them, especially one of the top two guys, it's a different team. Their run game's been, hit or miss.
Subpar for the most part. They've only had one game this year over 100 yards rushing as a team.
Yeah, Joe Mixon, 11 for 46. 4.2 yards per carry ain't bad, and he got a rushing touchdown. But it's like they had
on the year though, he's only at 3.9.
Yeah, well, they had was it 60 offensive snaps? We'll say I don't have the exact count. 60 offensive snaps, and they ran the ball 11 times.
Yep.
So that's going to hurt you.
Yeah, their defense is just not that good this year, yards wise. They've given up tons of rush yards throughout the season.
Now that Trey Hendrickson is hurt, who knows how bad his injury is.
Yeah, the last few weeks they've given up a ton of pass yards, even though they were on a win streak before the Texans game. But I don't want to say I'm overly concerned with them. It's just that this is a type of game, due to the beginning of the season, they couldn't afford to lose. They don't have that many opportunities to have a slip up.
Yeah,
especially now.
At this point in the season, with how injuries have gone and whatnot, the Bengals are literally the Bills with one more receiver.
I was thinking that today.
They're literally the Bills with one more receiver.
The same thing. Mm-hmm.
Defense is hurt, so defense always played probably above their level. They're hurt now, so they can't. Run game isn't terrible, but it's just not. It's not enough balance. So now the Bengals have to go basically to Baltimore on Thursday night, kind of with their playoff hopes on the line.
Huge game.
Yeah.
Especially in that division.
The legend of C.J. Stroud continues.
Gotta love it. The ball just looks. He's definitely one of those. Some quarterbacks just come into the NFL and the ball looks so pretty coming out of their hands. Something about an NFL ball versus a college football, it looks different. I think it's the stripe.
I don't even know who he reminds me of yet. It hasn't clicked for me.
I don't know. I'm trying to think off the top of my head a rookie quarterback who's looked. There's been rookie quarterbacks that, off the top of my head, the only person I can think of right away that looked this refined his first season and this dominant, Andrew Luck. Andrew Luck slinging the ball all over the field again for the Colts his rookie year. I think he threw a lot of picks compared to or CJ Stroud, but
it's just
the ball looks so
it's
beautiful.
It's just the poise, and it's just it's
that's a pretty not in college, and that wasn't the draft the pro comparison, but this rookie season, there's similarities there.
Yeah,
big powerful guys. They don't. CJ Stroud, I think, runs probably a little bit less than Andrew Luck did. Probably not as quick, but both, huge arms, solid in the pocket. I don't know. I'm happy that CJ Stroud. It's exciting. We need more good quarterbacks, so it's good that he's been this good.
Yeah. So Texans move to 5-4, and the Bengals fall to 5-4. Um, Next up, we have the New Orleans Saints at the Minnesota Vikings. Josh Dobbs just keeps on doing his thing. He's now 2-0 as a Viking. Gets the Vikings to 6-4 after an 0-4 start, right? Did they start 0-4?
The Vikings.
Yeah.
Let me double check. They started 0-3.
Okay. Well,
They started 1-4.
After a 1-4 start, they're now sitting at 6-4. It's just
they beat the 49ers in there too.
Yeah. Wait, what?
They have a win against the 49ers.
That was with Kirk, though, right?
Yeah, but still,
Okay,
it's part of this. Part of the streak.
Yeah, and I mean, sure. Do I wish he could have won one game for me in Nashville to get the Titans in the playoff last year? Yeah, but seems like a nice, chill guy, and I mean,
two things real quick.
Yeah.
Well, do you have your thought?
You good?
So, to what you said about him winning for you guys last year would have been nice. He had a few good games with the Cardinals, but they started losing a lot with a less talented team. The Vikings, even with Jefferson out, Addison's proved to be a really good receiver. I don't know.
So here's what I think. How, like, the fact that they've gotten to 6-4 and he's looked good. Now all of a sudden, Justin Jefferson has a reason to actually come back from the injury, because the report at one point was, what's the point of him coming back if he's going to get hurt and like miss out on signing a massive contract? Also, one of the Vikings' biggest struggles this year has been establishing the run. I think Madison has had one game where he kind of like went off as a rusher. Well, one of Dobbs' things this year is he scrambles, and similar to Mahomes, he's not a running quarterback, but he'll scramble, and when he sees a lane, he takes it, and he knows his limitations. Well, he's chipping in like 50 rush yards a game, which you add that to any offense, and it's like a little kickstart. So now all of a sudden, he's involving TJ Hawkinson and Addison, and then he's rushing for 50 yards. They're getting, 80 yards from their running backs, getting a few rushing touchdowns. So now all of a sudden they're putting up 25 plus points a game. The defense isn't great, but you got Danielle Hunter, who's leading the league in sacks. Harrison Smith is still like a leader back there. So all of a sudden the defense just has to be average. They don't have to, ball out. And I like Kirk Cousins. I think he's very underrated. He puts up great stats every year, and people still boo him and whatnot. And I think this just gives him a shot in the arm. It's just what you shouldn't need motivation in the NFL, but this is definitely something like, hey, let's, we're an underdog every week. We got Josh Dobbs, journeyman, who's winning with us, and he's, giving it his 1,000% every week. It's a good look.
Yep.
On the flip side,
Josh, I was just gonna say, Josh Dobbs gets Kirk. Like you said, Kirk Cousins has been probably a little. I don't know. It's like half deserving, and half like a little bit, taken for granted how good he's been. But Dobbs is a different type of quarterback. Brings maybe a little bit more swag to the quarterback position than Kirk Cousins, can move around and stuff. Different style. And I was just gonna say the Vikings. They have some winnable games the next couple weeks: Broncos, Bears, Raiders. So let's see if the Dobbs train keeps rolling.
Yep. Meanwhile, on the flip side, the Saints lose Derek Carr to injury. Jameson Winston comes in.
Jameson Winston?
Jameis Winston. I feel like I always do that. Jameis Winston comes in typical Winston fashion. He's slinging the ball over the field. He went 13 of 25 for 122, got 2 touchdowns. One was kind of a pretty crazy crossbody field chuck, but he also threw 2 interceptions. And it's
You
just
gotta take it. You gotta take that with Jameis.
yeah, no,
The good with the bad.
Yeah, it's 100% true. But it is just not enough now that the Vikings are putting up points on everybody.
Yeah, I mean, if they had Jameis Winston playing the whole game, I mean, they scored 16 points with him.
Yeah, but then he also had 4 turnovers.
But like I said, you got to take. I mean, would you rather have somebody who can get you 16 points and 4 turnovers, or Derek Carr who's afraid to turn the ball over and do anything and get you no points? You have no chance. I'd rather have Jameis Winston. Derek Carr can't throw the ball downfield, huh? Yeah, I mean, if you could combine them, you got a good shot at having
or could you have Derek Carr with Winston in his ear, like, do it, throw it.
You can't have somebody in Jameis's ear. That's what makes him so good. He's off the rails. But it sounds like Derek Carr's injury isn't serious. He's just in concussion protocol, and they're on a bye week. I would keep starting Jameis Winston. They're probably not going to because they traded for Derek Carr, or did they sign him or trade him?
They traded for him.
Whatever. I would go with Jameis, not mostly for. Yeah, would he help my fantasy team? But he would also help the Saints. Chris Olave looked the best he has all year when Derek Jameis came in.
Yeah.
This and the Saints could win. They're 5-5. That division's to be had by somebody.
You just need Jameis Winston to just dial it back 10%. Like, hey, you can go bombs away, but like we have a good defense. Run game should be okay. Just
and to your point too about him giving the ball up, they gave up only 3 points in the second half, so it obviously didn't affect them that much. What's better, Derek Carr doing nothing and punting, or Jameis Winston out there flinging it? I'm going to stick with that.
That's true. Well, moving on. Next game, we have the Green Bay Packers at Pittsburgh take on the Steelers. Once again, Steelers get the victory 23-19. Carried by basically both their running backs. They combined for almost 200 yards rushing, and they both had 2 touchdowns. Turning point in this game, Packers were kicking an extra point in the third quarter, I think, and their extra point got blocked. And there's a video that shows their like edge protector. I don't know if he didn't hear the snap or what, but he just doesn't move at all. And so the gunner comes flying off the edge and blocks the kick. And then because of that, they had to get a touchdown to win the game at the end, and Jordan Love wasn't able to do it.
Same old Jordan Love that he's been on the whole year.
Yeah, he threw for 280, 2 touchdowns, 2 interceptions. I mean, the thing with Jordan Love...
Literally a perfect stat line for Jordan Love. 21 of 40, so half the time he's throwing bad passes, half the time he's throwing good passes. 289 yards, pretty good, not like amazing. And then 2 touchdowns to go 2 picks. He's 50-50. 50 good, 50 bad, but not like Jameis Winston, 50 good, 50 bad.
I'll give Jordan Love this.
Or maybe he is like Jameis Winston.
The running game has not been what everyone expected it to be. With Aaron Rodgers, they had one of, if not the best 1-2 punch in the league with Aaron Jones, A.J. Dillon. Aaron Jones has been hurt. A.J. Dillon's just, I don't know what's wrong with him. It's like he forgot how to run. Literally.
He had a 40-yard run this game.
Yeah, I know. This is one of his better games, but it still wasn't great.
Yeah.
And Jordan Love just,
Also, go ahead.
He's just not accurate. Like he's not,
Yeah.
and accurate's really, really hard to improve, especially year to year. He's just not in the state of the NFL we're in, where good quarterbacks are throwing for mid 60, 70%, and you're fighting to get to 55.
Yeah.
That's just the rules are designed for you to be able to throw the ball, and he just struggles to hit targets.
Yeah, he just misses guys. He's sitting at 58.7% completion percentage on the year. Like we were just saying, I mean, 14 touchdowns to 10 picks. I mean, he is what he is. He hasn't played. He's been behind Aaron Rodgers in Green Bay for the last 3 years, but you would expect him to maybe look a little bit more polished throwing wise. And I don't know. They've been a disappointment as a whole. Like you said, the run game and Christian Watson really. And not to say it's completely his fault. He was nicked up in the beginning of the year, and Jordan Love hasn't played that great, but he hasn't really added on to his success from last year. So the Green Bay Packers are what they are.
Yeah, so now the Steelers are sitting at 6-3. Once again, they were able to win after being outgained. I think they've been outgained in every win this year, which is like historic. They probably are going to get into the playoffs. They have 6 wins. Like 9 wins probably gets you a wild card. So they've set themselves up very well. If the run game, the run game is the last 2 weeks, the run game has been, firing. They just announced Jalen Warren's going to be number 1, so Najee Harris moves to a complimentary. Yeah. Najee Harris moves
I got a text today about somebody asking if I was interested in Najee Harris.
Well, he's still going to get carries because that's their offense, but yeah, so he moves more to a complimentary,
That might be better for him.
Yeah, so whereas he's going to be the bell cow and Jalen Warren comes in and provides a spark, now Jalen Warren's going to be carrying the rock and Najee Harris can come in and just, be the hammer. The thing is, I think they get to the playoffs, but against a true playoff team, I'm not afraid of this team because of Kenny Pickett. Basically, Pickett, the games I've watched, he basically makes one big throw, and because of the run game and their defense, that one big throw is really all he needs to get the win.
Mm-hmm.
But, unless this is going to be Broncos-Pittsburgh with Tim Tebow, and he throws one pass in overtime that goes for a touchdown to win the game, you're not going to play a playoff in the AFC playoffs. You're not going to play a game in the AFC playoffs where Kenny Pickett gets you the win. I just don't see it.
No, they've only had over 200 yards passing 4 times this year. He's just not that good.
And I think a playoff team is going to be smart enough to say, hey, we're just going to stop the run and cover Deontay Johnson.
Yep. And, what's the stat? They've been outgained every year. Every game this year offensively, and they're still winning games.
Yeah.
That's not really a good stat. It's not like it's not like their defense is a juggernaut either. They're 28th in total yards allowed, 25th in rushing, 27th in passing yards allowed. So they just really don't. They have 2 solid division wins, and a win's a win. Cleveland Browns and against the Ravens, those are 2 good wins. But they got smacked by the San Francisco 49ers, and then am I looking at the right thing here? Yeah. And then Jacksonville beat them, which I don't know. I agree with you. I'm not afraid of them if I'm even.
They're like that team. They're like the Seahawks last year. Seahawks got into the playoffs, and everyone likes the Seahawks, but then they got to the playoffs.
They're not as good as the Seahawks.
But I know the Seahawks, they made it to the playoffs last year, but like no one was picking them to make a run with the NFC last year.
That's fair. I would say more like the Giants, but the Giants actually won a playoff game somehow last year.
Yeah. And I don't foresee that happening.
Nope.
All right. Next game is we had the Tennessee Titans going to Tampa Bay. They got stomped 20-6. It actually wasn't even that close. Both teams have bad defenses. Let me see. Basically, both teams have bad defenses. The biggest difference is the Titans' O-line is it's a bottom 5 O-line, and it's really injured, so it's even worse. And after the first drive, Tampa Bay, I think, realized how bad it was. So they were basically just they were just doing like 7-man fronts, sending pressure, and I think Will Levis on throws more than 10 yards down the field, he was like something ridiculous, like 3 of 20 or something. And I really feel like our offensive coordinator hates Derrick Henry, because it was like the whole first half, 1st and 10, bring Derrick Henry back out into the field after subbing up for Spears, and he would get the handoff, and literally there would be a Bucs player, like he would get the handoff and get tackled immediately. The one time they called play action on 1st down, they did some weird motion, and Will Levis ended up getting tripped by the motion man, so it was just a disaster. And then in the second half, the Buccaneers were just like, oh yeah, this secondary sucks, and we have Mike Evans. And he did drop a wide open touchdown, but the next drive, Baker Mayfield threw him a bomb, and he caught it and then dragged Christian Fulton's limp body into the end zone.
Yeah, which is even worse because he had 6 catches for 143 and a touchdown, so I mean he could have had over 200 yards receiving.
Yeah, he had two drops. One was just right in the middle of the field, and one was right in the end zone.
Yeah, I mean, I feel bad for you getting your texts throughout the day, just about the offensive line and stuff. I mean, it's to be expected. Levis had the big game a couple weeks ago, and just kind of not settled down, but cooled down a little bit. And the Tampa Bay, I mean, their rush defense is really good. And Baker Mayfield and Mike Evans have been making big plays this year.
My biggest complaint, and I mean, real quick, the Bucs are basically the Bucs. Baker Mayfield tends to play pretty well. They're good when they can get what's his name? When they can get their running back Rashad White going, they're good. Their defense, they're just injured on the back end. If they were healthy in the secondary, I think they'd be a much better team. And I think they are going to give the Saints and the Falcons a run for the money of the division. But on the Titans side, for weeks I've complained about just the talent on the O-line. Like, I've jokingly been like, I can play left tackle, and like last week we got on a rant about me thinking I could be an NFL wide receiver. I think compared to the Titans left tackle, I could be no worse. Like,
that is just, yeah, that you're saying that's how bad they are.
Yeah. Like, am I moving bodies in the run game? No, but hey, like, if
you're not doing anything,
I can chop block.
Yeah, but they would jump over you.
Jump over? You think some 300-pound defensive end is jumping over me?
They're freaks in the NFL these days.
I thought you were going to say, like, punch me in the throat and watch me die.
They can jump over you if you try to chop block.
I'm getting a thigh.
You're out for the count right now due to a back injury, bud.
That's true. But
they would literally Jim Carrey you from The Cable Guy on their way to the quarterback. Just bull rush you and just step on your back.
There is listen, my one defense is there is so many plays where Andre Dillard doesn't even touch a defensive lineman.
Yeah, he's garbage.
Like I think I could at least like get an elbow on them, like into the ribs, slow them down. But there was a play where the Titans right tackle,
if you want to be dirty, okay, fine, you might have a chance, but that's not allowed.
There was a play where the Titans, I can't remember if it was a run or a pass. The Bucs had everyone on the line, and the play, I think it was a play action, and the play was to down block and then have Will Levis bootleg out the right side. And so when the ball was hiked, it's like Chris Hubbard was looking at the guy in the B gap, and the guy in the B gap immediately gets picked up by the right guard, and Chris Hubbard went to his left to block that guy, and then as soon as that guy got blocked by the right guard, he literally did one of these and the guy on his C gap flew right through full speed and destroyed Levis. And I'm just how that's coaching. That's coaching right there. Not knowing who you're supposed to block. It's one thing not having the talent to block. It's another thing not having the coaching to block right, and the Titans have both.
Mike Vrabel out the door?
I don't know. I still think he's a really good coach. I don't know.
Part of being a good coach is putting good coaches around you.
That's his biggest flaw, is I think he needs to realize that he needs to put better coaches out there.
Johnny's a good guy. He's a good who's your offensive coordinator?
Tim Kelly.
Who's the worst coordinator for you on the Titans? Defense or offensive? Who's your offensive lineman coach? Do you know off the top of your head? Whatever. John's a good guy. He was sitting on the couch drinking beers a week ago, but he's a good guy.
What about the murders? What murders?
He's a good guy.
But yeah, we don't need to talk about this anymore. The Titans.
What about the sacks? What sacks?
I won't be surprised if the Titans the Titans are 3-13 in their last 16 games, and I'd be surprised if they're probably going to win another game or two because Will Levis, I still think, is a great talent. And Derrick Henry is going to probably have one or two good games this year where he just says, screw this blocking, I'm going to get my yardage. It's just so bad. So bad.
Yeah, I mean, you guys have winnable games. The Jaguars is always a winnable game because of Derrick Henry. Panthers, Colts, Texans well, it gets rough at the end. Dolphins, Texans, Seahawks, Texans.
Maybe we'll catch the Cardinals, the Panthers, but yeah.
Yeah.
All right, but anywho, good win for the Bucs. I like Baker Mayfield, so we'll see. Next up, we have the San Francisco 49ers went to Jacksonville to take on the Jaguars. A game I thought the Jags would at least cover, and they got absolutely bodied 34-3. It's just so bad. Purdy dropped a cool 3 touchdowns. McCaffrey had 95 yards rushing. George Kittle went for 100 receiving yards and a touchdown. Even Kyle Juszczyk, the Juice Man, he got a receiving touchdown. Trevor Lawrence threw 2 picks. Jags couldn't really do anything at all. I don't know why I bought in. All year I've been saying that the Jags are overrated.
That's what was funny to me.
All year I've been saying the Jags are overrated and they're still the Jags. And then finally this week I was like, you know what? I'm going to buy in. And no, they're fraudulent.
The worst buy you could have had.
They're fraudulent. As I said already, their only big win is over the Bills in London when they had a whole extra week of rest and preparation. So I should have put a stack on that game because I knew they were going to win that game. Other than that, they've lost to what's their biggest one after the Bills game? Are you looking at their schedule?
Yeah, they've lost to the Chiefs, Texans, and now the 49ers. So 3 good teams they've lost to.
Who's their big win?
Their big win would be Buffalo. It was a close win, 25-20. They've also beat the Colts,
Meh.
the Falcons,
Meh.
the Bills, the Colts again, the Saints, and the Steelers.
So the Steelers, who we said are not that good, is they're basically their best win.
Yeah, I mean, I questioned whether I asked the question, are they? I didn't say they're frauds at the time, but I was saying like, how good are they? Are they one of the best teams with their 5-game win streak? And you said they were frauds. That's why I was surprised by your pick for the cover for
I
San
think
Francisco.
I got into a dark hole with the Titans, and I started to believe, and I shouldn't have.
Yeah, I mean the Jaguars got a little bit of a problem. I mean, Trevor Lawrence hasn't been that great this year.
If you put up Mac Jones and Trevor Lawrence stats, individual stats side by side, they're not that different.
Well, I'm going to verify that because I do support Trevor Lawrence.
So,
but Trevor Lawrence hasn't had a great yeat. He's only got 9 touchdowns to 6 interceptions. Mac Jones has 10 and 10. Completion percentage is close. Trevor Lawrence is at 67 though, which is pretty good. Mac Jones is at 65, 2,000 yards for Mac Jones, and then Trevor Lawrence has 21-20, so a little bit more. So not that much better. But I was gonna say Mac Jones has been underperforming this year. They added Calvin Ridley.
Was it you that sent me? Did you send me that Calvin Ridley meme?
No, probably RJ.
About that. So it was. I thought it was you or
maybe it was. I don't know.
Or Sean, and it was Obi-Wan going, "You were supposed to destroy the Sith, not join them. Bring balance to the Force." And then it was Anakin Sean with Calvin Ridley's face going, "I hate you."
Yeah. The games they've played the games they've played the best have been where ETN goes off and their defense makes some plays.
And Zay Jones just got arrested for domestic violence, so he could be out for the year.
Not good. Yeah, not good. ETN actually only averages 3.9 yards per attempt, so that's not great.
He just had a tear of touchdowns for like a 3-game stretch.
Yeah, he had 7 touchdowns. 29 receptions for 275 too. But like I said, I mean, Christian Kirk leads their team with yards again, 624. Calvin Ridley has a measly 471 after having like 150 in week 1. Zay Jones was pretty garbage anyway, 78 yards on the year. Oh, he's only played in 3 games, but 78 yards in 3 games isn't that good. So I don't know. We don't have to talk about that much more about this. I think this game showed more about the Jaguars and the 49ers. I kind of expected I think most people expected the 49ers to bounce back. Yeah. They were on a 3-game skid. Their defense was really underperforming, and they returned to form. And I think it's just more revealing that the Jaguars maybe aren't as good as people thought they were.
Yeah, well, I think with the Niners, Chase Young's definitely a shot in the arm to the defense. He gets the team back up with Nick Bosa. And then, yeah, I think, Brock Purdy, the sparkle's not there anymore, but,
the sparkle.
He's still like a nice diamond.
Statistically, he had a really good game. 19 for 26, 300 yards and 3 touchdowns.
Brock Purdy's still a diamond in the rough. It's just not as good a diamond as we thought it was.
Yeah, this was a perfect game for him. They were blowing out the Jaguars, and I still want to see him be that elite in a high pressure situation.
Yeah. Yeah.
Good win for the 49ers.
Yeah, Jags.
Bad loss for the Jaguars.
Moving on, we have the Cleveland Browns going to take on the Baltimore Ravens. The Browns come back from being down what were they down? Like 24-9? Does that sound right?
I think they were down 31-17.
So they're down 31-17, and they get the win 33-31 on a walk-off field goal to win. Ravens implode. Lamar had 2 interceptions. The Ravens, they I think they lead the league in fourth quarter collapses. Is that what we call it?
Yeah.
Like that's their thing. Like they blow a lot of games that they should be able to. Like the win probability at one point in this game was like 97% or whatever for the Ravens.
Mm-hmm.
And hey, I'll tip my hat to the Browns' run game. Their run game has been very good, and Jim Schwartz, that defense, even with injuries, I thought the problem was due to the injuries, they wouldn't be able to keep up with this offense. I mean, they still allowed 31 points, but second half, they made adjustments, and it worked.
Yeah, Deshaun Watson really, hate to say it, but he came alive in that second half.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, just looking at, I was pulling up some stats for the Ravens' fourth quarter struggles against the Steelers. They were only up 10-3, but they were pretty dominant. They made mistakes that kept that lead closer, but then they gave up 14 points to 0 to lose that game. Their other loss against the Colts, that was an overtime loss. That one was a little bit more back and forth, but they still were only able to score 5 points. I guess there was a safety or something in the fourth quarter. I don't really remember that game. And they struggled a ton in overtime, missed some field goals, I think, were blocked or whatever. But if you look at Lamar Jackson's fourth quarter stats, it's his worst, second to worst quarter for completion percentage, but his yards are way down in the fourth quarter. First quarter, he had 720 yards, second 620, third quarter 535. This is for the year. Fourth quarter, he only has 290 yards. He has 2 picks, which is one more than he has in every other quarter. And then his rush yards are low, and his yards per rush are low, and he has no rushing touchdowns in the fourth quarter. And his quarterback rating is a lot lower overall in the fourth quarter. Now, I'm not saying I'm blaming him completely, but I have watched every Ravens game, and I think the play calling gets worse in the second half. And in tight games and at the end of the game, Lamar just makes some dumb throws sometimes.
I think he still struggles to throw downfield.
Yeah, I don't think they throw down the field that much.
Do you think that's because he struggles to throw down the field, so they don't call it?
Maybe. I still think his throwing motion is butt cheese for the most part, as RJ likes to say. He throws sidearm passes 50 yards downfield. That's not a good way to throw an accurate ball. And he throws it sidearm so much, he gets tons of passes batted down, and that's what essentially caused them to lose the game. The pick 6 at the end of the game, I can't remember who tipped. It got tipped at the line of scrimmage and then picked for a touchdown for the Browns. But I'm pretty sure the corner was going to jump that play anyways and pick it off.
Yeah, listen, I know I hate on Lamar a lot. He's one of the best quarterbacks in the league.
Yep.
But he doesn't. The same things that make him a great improviser and thrower on the run make him a bad thrower in other situations. And I don't think he throws a catchable ball like that. That's not what I meant. It's not like the most catchable ball in the world. Like there's some quarterbacks where like that's a nice ball. He doesn't have that. And I think he struggles with accuracy when throwing, downfield outside 20 yards downfield.
Yeah. I think it's fair to say he does struggle in certain parts of his game, and he has this year. And I also think that the Ravens' play calling on offense hasn't been perfect. Mitchell, the rookie that had the coming out party last week, every time he touched the ball this game, he looked really good and explosive. He had like a huge touchdown run, and he had a screen that I went for like 30 yards, I think. But he touched the ball like 4 times. And John Harbaugh's excuse after the game was that he's young or that he's a rookie.
Yeah, well, they said like
when he touches the ball,
They said they didn't have plays like drawn up from in the second. The plays they called in the second half weren't like meant for him.
Well, that's dumb.
I will say though that he's very small. He's a very small back, and
he's 2 games in a row. He's explosive.
Yeah, if he's your most explosive, he's their most explosive player by far.
Mm-hmm.
And
say Flowers maybe.
Well, he should be, but he's not. This guy is, proof out there on the field, explosive, but he's tiny, and I think you also, I think they have a snap count for him, but they're not going to admit that they have a snap count
because he's small.
Player. Yeah, he's tiny.
I don't know.
And he's a rookie.
I'm going to give you a rundown here. I'll be very quick. This is the fourth quarter. Is it? This might be whatever. This is the second half. I don't know if it's fourth quarter or third quarter. It's the third quarter. The Baltimore Ravens are up. I'm going to go after the 31. So they scored with 3 minutes left in the third quarter to go up 31-17. That game went really fast. This isn't really proving what I'm saying, but the pick six was terrible. And then they had a 6-play, 16-yard drive with 3 minutes left. Gus Edwards, 2 yards. Lamar Jackson, incomplete. Lamar Jackson to Zay Flowers for 11 yards. Lamar Jackson, incomplete. Lamar Jackson design run, I think, for 1 yard. Penalty. Lamar Jackson, 7-yard run on 3rd and long. And then they had to punt. And then Cleveland had the drive to win the game. And we've been talking about their offense and Lamar Jackson. The defense played like garbage in the second half too. They were giving up chunk plays left and right, especially on that last drive. So they just got some things to figure out at the end of the game. I still think the Ravens are one of the better teams in the NFL.
Yeah, I mean, the Ravens are still a really good team. Their defense has been on a tear lately, so I'm not going to hold one bad game against them. But yeah, it's just because it's them. It's characteristic to blow a fourth quarter lead.
Yeah.
And the Browns, if Deshaun Watson can,
if he can play like he did in the second half every game, they're a really good team.
Yeah. But yeah. Hopefully, I mean, I care less about Deshaun Watson, but yeah, he makes the Browns much more interesting. Moving on, we have the Atlanta Falcons at the Arizona Cardinals. Cardinals actually come away with the victory, 25-23 in Kyler Murray's debut game. A few things happen here. Falcons finally start feeding Bijan Robinson. He gets 22 carries for 95 yards and a touchdown. Kyler Murray throws for 250 and an interception. But it really comes down to the Falcons. They just don't have a quarterback. And Kyler Murray didn't do like much in his debut. But he did in Kyler Murray fashion. I mean, hey, we always say that he doesn't have the body to hold up, but he missed the whole first half of the season. So now he's going to be healthy for the whole second half for the first time ever. Yep. He did have a crazy third down scramble for turn into a conversion to move the ball down the field to set them up for their game-winning field goal. So, he did make the game-winning play when the game was on the line. The Cardinals he definitely improves the offense because offensively it's him, James Conner, Hollywood Brown. Zach Ertz is hurt, but they got Trey McBride, who looked good, second-year tight end. The Cardinals' defense just isn't good. So they're going to finish with a terrible record. But if you're a Cardinals fan, you got something to look forward to now with Murray probably playing to keep his job, potentially.
Yeah, I didn't take too much away from this game.
There's debate now if Arthur Smith should keep his job or not.
Yeah, I mean, Heineke, he is what he is. He played as best as you could ask him to, as good as you could ask him to, till he got injured, I think, early in the fourth quarter, and then Ritter came in, but he was benched for a reason. I guess the question, that's the two things coming out of this game. The Cardinals are going to need to figure out what their plans are with Kyler Murray the rest of the year. Well, I guess see how he does the rest of this year and figure out what they want to do with him. Like if they end up with the first overall pick or the second overall pick.
Yeah.
And then, like you said, if the Falcons continue to fall the second half of this year, is Arthur Smith on the hot seat?
I think he's a good coach.
Man likes to run the ball.
It'd be nice. It'd be nice to see him with a quarterback.
Yeah.
But I mean, this is not a great game. So, moving on. Next up, we had Detroit going to LA to take on the Chargers. Lions walk away with a 41-38 victory on a field goal to win the game.
Lots of points.
Yeah. Goff had a big game, 300 yards, 2 touchdowns. David Montgomery went off for 116. Gibbs had a big game. Keenan Allen had a monster game, 11 catches, 175, and 2 touchdowns. Amon-Ra St. Brown had a great game. I think just the biggest thing here is I think the Chargers scored on their final 5 possessions.
Mm-hmm.
If you look at the Chargers, you put up 38 points. And I know the Lions are, a contender in the NFC. But if you just look at a talent perspective, the Chargers have the more talented roster. And their defense just sucks. And we say this every week. But,
do they have the most talented roster at this point?
I think individual
for
talent.
As good as some players look on the lines now, I would say Amon St. Brown's the best receiver between the two teams.
Keenan Allen's...
Yeah, I know, but St. Brown, I give him the edge. And then Jahmyr Gibbs. The combination of Jahmyr Gibbs and Montgomery are better than Eckler.
Okay.
Right now. I'm not going to go through all the players because I don't know them all. But, yeah, I don't know.
Chargers defense is just awful.
I had in my notes Brandon Staley back to being the worst coach in the league.
Well, yeah, now that Josh McDaniels is gone, he's for sure the worst coach in the league.
Yeah, the Lions, just quickly, the Lions offense, the last 2 weeks is what the Lions want to be offensively. They have had over 200 yards rushing. Gibbs has looked amazing. Montgomery came back this week, looked explosive. Jared Goff, that opens up that pass game for him when you're able to run like that and let him operate freely without too much stress. And he's having a really good year. They just need to tighten some screws up on the defensive end. I'm not too concerned about them. I think they're a solid playoff team, but it's not like whatever. The Chargers, same old stuff. Justin Herbert has an amazing game. Keenan Allen has an amazing game. Brandon Staley sucks.
Yeah, I think if you're Brandon Staley, you've had Justin Herbert your entire coaching tenure. You've only gone to the playoffs one time, and you blew a huge lead and lost the game.
Yep, like a 28-point lead or something.
Yeah. So he's gone. He's fired. He probably should never coach again.
Yeah, he's been.
Why would you hire him? He's supposed to be a defensive coach.
Yeah.
Like, he has nothing to point to.
Yeah, so this year their league ranked defensively is 32nd in yards for passing, 27th. They're 12th in rushing yards, but you can just pass all over them. Yeah, but exactly. They're 27th in rush touchdowns allowed. Last year they were 28th in rush yards allowed. They were better in pass yards allowed, but 18th in pass touchdowns allowed. So still not good. And then his first year with the team, they were middle of the pack, yards and touchdowns wise passing, and they were one of the worst teams in the league rushing defensively. So what are you good for? Nothing.
Yeah.
Get him out of here.
We'll take the Madden test. If you're playing Madden with your friends and you're doing random teams and you get the Chargers, you're like, I'm winning this game.
Yeah, Justin Herbert's a stud. Yeah. They have weapons on offense still. They just need to get rid of Brandon Staley and get a good defensive coordinator and then an offensive head coach.
So yeah, it's Lions moving in a good direction, Chargers moving in a bad direction, basically. Next up,
Skip.
with the Giants in Dallas to take on the Cowboys, as everyone expected. The Cowboys win 49-17. And it's typical Cowboys. They destroy the bad teams. Dak Prescott threw for 400 yards and 4 touchdowns. Brandon Cooks went off. CeeDee Lamb went off. Their backup running back Dowdle had Dowdle. He had 80 yards and a touchdown.
They were playing flag football out there.
Yeah, it was just. It's just bad. I like Brian Daboll, but this team was just as bad with Daniel Jones. They're going to have to try and get out of that contract. Barkley's probably going to leave. Mm-hmm. So,
is Daboll on the hot seat, though? The roster's not good.
Yeah,
it wasn't good last year.
If you put him on the hot seat, he's going to get signed immediately.
Yeah, exactly. Like, I think he should be given the chance to start fresh.
What the league doesn't want it to happen, let's say he got fired, like let's say the Maras, who I don't think they'll do it because they're like old school ownership. If they fired him in a rage, you know where he's going. He's going right back to Buffalo to be their coordinator for the rest of the season.
Yeah, that would, yeah.
But yeah, Cowboys, destroyed them as they should. I'm not concerned about this game with the Cowboys. The thing with the Cowboys is, what do you look like against the top teams? And the Giants are just
garbage.
They're devoid of talent.
Yep.
So that's all. There's nothing more we need to say about that. Yep. Your notes exactly sum it up. Giants suck. What did the Cowboys even prove? So yeah.
Suck it, Gil.
Next game, we have the Washington Commanders going to Seattle to take on the Seahawks. Ended up in a bit of a shootout. The Seahawks win 29-26 on a walk-off field goal after the Commanders scored late to take the lead. Geno Smith had a nice game, threw for 360 and 2 touchdowns. Sam Howell had a really good game. I'm trying to pull his numbers up right now.
312, 3 touchdowns.
Yeah. Okay. 312, 3 touchdowns, 29 to 44. He had a 109 rating. Um, I think he also ran for 2 big conversions. Um, funny part was Brian Robinson was his leading receiver with 120.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but I mean,
Defense sucks.
yeah, and they traded
They
away
got
the
two.
two
They
best.
got rid of. They got rid of two of their better defenders, and their defense was already underperforming, like they did last year.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
and the coaching staff
Seahawks.
sucks. Del Rio and
If
Rivera.
you're a Washington fan, I think Sam Howell is the real deal. But you're 4-6, probably not going to make the playoffs. If you're the Seahawks, on the other hand, you get to 6-3. You're right back in the thick of things. Bounce back game after the shellacking you got last week from the Ravens.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, both quarterbacks look good. I will say, I don't know what Rivera was doing on that last drive. It was, I know they got the touchdown, but it was some of the worst time management I've ever seen. You letting time run off the clock, burning a timeout, not burning a timeout when they should have, using a timeout when they didn't need to. Um, but hey,
I would love.
go
I
ahead.
would love to see like how much he really does throughout the week and how committed he really is. And I hate to hate on the man, but I mean he's. I mean that's what we're here for, to hate on people.
But hey, Sam Howell, just real quick, being one of the most pressured and sacked quarterbacks in the league, some of it's his fault, some of it his O-line is just bad. He's leading the league in passing yards, and he, you know, he has about a 2-to-1 touchdown interception ratio, which is not good, not bad. But if he had time, I think he could be really good.
Yeah, I mean they have. I think Sam Howell's good, and I think they have good skill players. They just need to shore up the offensive line, revamp the defense through the draft, maybe free agency. New owners probably will be willing to spend, and then get a new coaching staff.
Yep.
I don't think they're in for like years and years of like garbage.
Yeah.
And Seattle is, like you said, good bounce back game.
Yeah. If you're Seattle, you just got to keep pace with the 49ers. It's a race for the division. It's just a huge advantage for Seattle because of their home field to host a playoff game.
Yeah.
So
they have a tough schedule after next week. They need to beat the Rams, and then it's 49ers, Dallas, 49ers, Philly, and then 3 winnable games to end the year. So
they basically got to find a way to split with the Niners and then win of one of Philadelphia or Dallas.
Yep.
But we'll see. It'd be an interesting run at the end of the year. Next up, Sunday Night Football. We have the Jets at Las Vegas take on the Raiders. In a bit of a snooze fest, the Raiders come out on top 16 to 12. Raiders are now 2-0 under Antonio Pierce, get them to 500. They're now sitting at 5-5. I mean, Josh Jacobs ran for 116 yards. The Raiders were able to get that touchdown late to give them the lead, but the Jets are just a mess.
Zach Wilson sucks. It is what it is.
Yeah, it's just like, again, the Jets got this primetime game because it was supposed to be Aaron Rodgers. Zach Wilson, all the physical ability you could ask for in a quarterback, but just between him and the play calling, like someone posted a video and it looked like multiple times the Jets were like calling the same plays, and there was mismanagement at the end of the game when the Jets were trying to, drive to get the game-winning touchdown, and then he somehow scrambles and slings the ball into the end zone again. Great athletic ability, and it looked like Garrett Wilson gets in position to make the catch. Would have been a tough catch, and then of course their tight end Tyler Conklin gets his one hand up there to basically just swat the ball away from Garrett Wilson.
Yep.
Had he just not even gotten it, it's just stayed away from the jump. I don't know if Garrett Wilson catches it, but he was in as good a position as you could be to catch a Hail Mary.
Yeah, I mean, yeah. The game went about as perfectly as we could have predicted. I think we probably did predict something like this. Zach Wilson's not that good. The Jets plan for Aaron Rodgers. Hackett's their offense coordinator, right?
Yeah.
That was probably with the intent of having Aaron Rodgers. Zach Wilson, people said or some people thought, I guess, maybe Aaron Rodgers would help him the next couple of years, but probably hurt him this year because he just watched Aaron Rodgers do Aaron Rodgers things all offseason. Like, maybe I can do that. So now he's throwing no-look passes and stuff. Was it a good play? Yeah, it was a good play, but don't do that.
Yeah.
And that goes into Zach Wilson. Like you said, he has all the tools. He just can't build a house, and he's not good. The Raiders were able to shut down their run game. Breece Hall had 2 yards per carry. Yeah.
Man, if only the Jets could find another Andy Reid to get his hands on Zach Wilson.
That would be the ultimate test.
Yeah. But yeah, a little bit of a snooze fest. That brings us to Monday Night Football. We have the Broncos coming to Buffalo to take on the Bills. Broncos walk away with the win, 24-22, again, on a walk-off field goal. There's a lot to talk about. The Broncos get to 4-5. They're slowly
5-5.
Are they 5-5?
Yeah, they were 5-4.
Oh, my thing must not be updated because those are 4-5.
Mine says 5-5.
All right. Well,
what you looking at?
ESPN.
ESPN says 5-5 right here.
Well, mine must not be updated. Well, the Broncos get to 5-5. The Bills fall to 5-5. Real quick, Broncos kick a game-winning field goal. They miss.
Yep.
The Bills scramble to get on their field goal team, their field goal block team, and in the midst of that, they get too many men on the field. 5-yard penalty. Broncos get to re-kick, and they kick it and make it. Just leave your defense on the field. It was a 20. Mm-hmm. They were on the 20-yard line, so it was a 30-yard field goal. I mean,
well, they probably wanted the best situation, the best probability to block the punt.
But how often does that happen?
Exactly.
Especially in a rush situation,
And the offense is rushing just as much as the defense. And what happened? He missed the kick.
Yeah, but hey, you gave him another opportunity, made it closer, kicked it, won the game. Russell Wilson. I mean, the Broncos kind of have their identity, right? Play good defense, run the ball a lot, have Russell Wilson. He's not the focal point of this team. Yep. Forget what you paid him. Russell Wilson is to play efficiently, manage the clock. He had 190 yards, 2 touchdowns, made plays when he needed to, put the game and the defense in the running game's hands. On the flip side, Bills, it was all Josh Allen has some good and some bad. We got a lot of bad Josh Allen. James Cook fumbled twice, one on the opening play, one late in the game, so that by the luck of the football gods, the ball bounced right back up into his hands. I mean, that's who the Bills are. Like, it's a
Listen.
flawed team.
Yeah, Josh Allen's still one of the best quarterbacks in the league. He's making a ton of mistakes this year, but it's all the root cause is that they ask way too much of him. They don't. Their offense is literally Josh Allen, go make a play, and with Stephon Diggs.
It literally looks like their offense is go play catch with Diggs.
Yeah,
and figure out the rest.
Yeah, and it's yeah. There's no. It's very vanilla. There's at least it looks like it to my eyes. There's no misdirection or it doesn't look like they're doing anything for Josh Allen to help open things up. They're just relying on his arm and his athleticism.
Yeah,
and they don't, even though they have a bunch of games this year with good rushing yards, but he has a lot to do with that. And a lot of his rush yards are scrambles. They're not like design runs, so they're not really setting up the run, or they're not really running the ball efficiently to me to set up the pass for Josh Allen.
I think the issue is they already put tons of pressure on Josh Allen, and then the defense got banged up, so defense isn't good anymore. So now there's even more pressure on him. So he's forcing and making turnover-worthy plays.
Yeah, and their 3 losses, their 4, well, not counting the Jets game because that was pretty much on the back of Josh Allen throwing 4 picks. But in the last 4 losses, they gave up 470 yards, 360 yards, 400 yards, and then they only gave up 300 yards last night to the Broncos, but the Broncos were efficient.
Yeah. And all this snowballed into now Ken Dorsey, their offensive coordinator, has been fired.
We called it.
And he's been replaced by...
we called it or we said it. It should happen.
I think we said it would happen if they lost.
Yeah.
He was replaced by
Joe... Their quarterback's coach.
Joe something. I'm drawing a blank.
I had it written down, but it's gone. Whatever.
But yeah, I just think at this point in the season, like there's nothing the Bills can do. Like, this is who you are. Your defense is hurt. A lot of those players aren't coming back, and it's too late to really add anybody. Bless you. I think, at the trade deadline, they were one of the teams that I thought Derrick Henry could have been a huge help. Like, I'm not saying change your whole offense to run the ball with Derrick Henry, but like, just his presence in the backfield, he could have just...
He sets the tone.
And just take pressure off of Josh Allen. Let the Josh Allen play free. They would actually... I don't know if they have a play action game.
They're running a lot more 2 tight end sets this year too, but like not the way they should be.
Yeah.
Like, they're not running, like, it's just still Josh Allen running around throwing the ball, which, what is that good? What is that? Is 2 tight ends 12 or 11?
No, 12.
Yeah, so that's not the way you should be running out of that formation, and it's the same thing that they do every other play. So
yeah, so
bye Dorsey.
Yep. So long. I don't know if it's 100% his fault, but someone has to be a scapegoat. They're not going to blame their franchise quarterback, who's taken them as far as anyone else, farther than anyone else's in 20 plus years.
We did it last week. We ran through all the games, and you did the win losses. Did you give the Broncos a win or a loss? I think you said win.
I can't remember.
And they still, at that point, were only at like 8 or 9 wins by the rest of the season. So that was their schedule only gets harder. So
yeah, big
loss.
Yeah, AFC's
are in jeopardy.
The AFC's tough. If you're not gonna be able to keep up with the Dolphins, You're going to be competing with the Steelers, Bengals, the Browns, maybe the Broncos now who have a tiebreaker over you. Maybe the Raiders now who've turned it around. Well, that's probably it, but it's still not a cakewalk. So yeah, a lot of weird stuff happening this week, but that all makes for an interesting season.
That's right.
But yeah, that does it for our recap for Week 11. Moving on, we're gonna go into our
studs and duds.
Studs and duds of the week.
Suzzes and dudses.
Exactly. Starting with studs, do you want to go first?
Sure.
CJ Stroud again.
I was just looking at it, and I'm going to give it to the guy who complimented CJ Stroud this week, and that was Devin Singletary.
Nice.
Crap. Here we go. Knew I had him up. 1 second. Wasn't prepared. Here we go. Yeah. So on the year, he had more than 50 yards one time. He had 58 yards. Wasn't asked to do that much throughout the year. And, up against, one of the tougher opponents they've had in the Bengals. And they needed every single yard. And he gave them 30 carries for 150 and a touchdown. So he set the tone for him. And, kudos to him. The forgotten man is unforgotten.
Maybe the Bills would like to have him back.
Exactly.
Yeah, when you can give your running back 30 carries and he can just give you 5 yards a pop straight there,
Yep.
like
his long was only 20, so he was just consistent all day.
Churning them out. Like that's goes a long way, and wearing down the defense, setting up your play action, slowing down the pass rush, giving you the time of possession, resting your defense. It cannot be emphasized enough how big that is, especially when it's coming from one guy. So yeah, Congrats to Devin Singletary, the big sass no interference stud of the week.
Yes.
My stud of the
sending
week.
Trophies to these guys. What is this? I don't know. Some weirdos sent you this mail.
My stud of the week is none other than Josh Dobbs. Gets the win over the Saints, 260 pass yards and a passing touchdown, almost 50 rush yards, and a touchdown on a crazy run around scramble. Actually had two ridiculous scrambles against the Saints defense. Mm-hmm. I think he almost had 2 rushing touchdowns. Not really the play was good, but just, the fact that what he's doing, got the first win on 5 days notice, then, and was an emergency quarterback, basically. Then he becomes a starter, wins this week over the Saints, who's a very good defense. He's still got to be learning the plays and the signals and probably still learning players' names, honestly. I think they showed, I don't know if it was from last week or whatever, but he had to ask for directions to the locker room because he didn't know how to get there. Has the Vikings right in the thick of the playoff hunt. Doing this without Justin Jefferson, we'll see what he does when he gets Justin Jefferson back. Just very, very inspiring football.
I like it.
Moving on.
Josh Dobbs deserves it.
Yeah, they're calling him the Pastronaut. I don't know if I like it, but
interesting. It's a little difficult.
Yeah. But unfortunately, we have to move on from all these positive, good vibes to the duds of the week.
Gotta have a dud for every stud.
Big old milk dud. Who's your dud of the week?
Milk dud's good.
They're all right. They're a little chewy for me.
Chewy? Milk duds are chewy?
Sticky?
Yeah. What are the things that have the they're similar to a milk dud, but they got the crunch on the inside instead, and they're hollow kind of. It's the hard stuff.
I don't know.
Anyways, movie theater candy. My dud of the week is the Ravens' second half performance. In particular, their defense letting Deshaun Watson essentially be perfect in the second half. I think it was 14 to 14. Let him get a touchdown and scramble around at the end of the game, just getting chunk plays. Not a good look, not a good performance. And then offensively, weren't able to put the game away when they had the opportunities. Gave them a touchdown. Lamar Jackson threw a terrible pick six. Had a chance to take a decent hold on a really tough division, and they let it slip right between the fingers.
Yeah.
Dud second half performance of the Ravens.
Yeah.
That one goes right to John Harbaugh's desk.
Perfectly sums it up. Can't choke away games like that. My dud of the week. He actually had a good game, but he's still my dud. It's none other than Tyler Boyd. Had the game winning touchdown right in his hands and just dropped it.
Brick hands.
Yeah, I don't know what happened. That's just one of the ones where the football gods just smite you for some reason and just say you will not catch this football.
Lack of concentration, brick hands, whatever it may be. Maybe it's the football gods.
But yeah, Tyler Boyd's a good receiver. He actually had a pretty good game, but you have the game-winning touchdown right there, and the Bengals, they're in a tough race, and you drop it, and it leaves the door open for the Texans to drive down the field to kick a game-winning field goal. So
instead of a win, you got a dud.
Yep, Tyler Boyd, you are my dud of the week. Womp, womp, womp.
Shame.
Yep. Anything else we wanted to go over today?
I think that'll do, Pig.
That'll do. All right. So that does it for today's show. This is No Interference. Once again, we are your hosts, Westside and Big Sass. As usual, thank you for everyone that tuned in, listened to, watched the episode. If you enjoyed your time with us, like, share, subscribe, drop a comment. If you would, follow us on social media at The NI Show. We are on Instagram and X, formerly known as Twitter. Drop some goodies for you on game day. But yeah, thank you to the NI supporters out there. So adios.
See you later.